Hello guys, this is your friend Itachi Fanfic 3.0 and we are back a new fanfic story which is what if he never found courage to hold her hand, and the moment slipped away before they felt each other's warmth. Part 1. Let's start fanfic without wasting more time. Summer had always draped the village in warmth, but this year, the air felt different, charged with an energy that seemed to ripple through every street and heart. Lanterns swayed gently on strings stretched above the pathways, each one glowing like a tiny star fallen from the heavens. The sun had only just begun its descent, and yet the excitement of the festival could already be felt everywhere. He had never really cared much for festivals before, not because they weren't fun, but because he never felt like he belonged to the world that celebrated them. But today, things were different. Today, he walked with a secret hope burning quietly inside him. His steps were energetic but uncertain, his palms slightly sweaty despite the cool fabric of his dark gray yukata. His heartbeat was louder than the crowd. And he kept checking the sky, as though time might hurry along just because he wished it. She, on the other hand, walked gently down another street, her white yukata with purple blossoms fluttering around her ankles. She clutched a small fan in her hands, decorated with soft blue swirls. She breathed deeply, trying to calm her nerves, but every exhale only made her chest feel lighter, as if something inside her was ready to leap out. She wasn't used to being somewhere so crowded, with lights and laughter pulling her attention in every direction. But she had promised herself she would not run away today. Not tonight. Because tonight, she was going to finally stand beside the one who had always shone like sunlight to her. Their paths, separate since morning, slowly curved toward the same destination, the center of the festival grounds, where laughter grew louder, lantern light grew brighter, and a string of wishes waited to be written in ink and hung beneath the stars. He arrived first, standing awkwardly near a booth with colorful water balloons floating inside a pool. The stall owner encouraged him to try, pushing a fishing hook into his hands. He smiled, scratching his cheek nervously, but agreed. With surprising clumsiness, he tried to scoop one, almost losing it twice before securing his first prize. A light blue balloon bobbed gently in his grip. He stared at it with a silly grin, one that reminded anyone watching that he always found joy in the smallest victories. But then his smile wavered. He glanced around again. She wasn't there yet. A little doubt crept in. Maybe she wouldn't come. Maybe she didn't want to meet him after all. Maybe. And then, almost as if answering the fear in his heart, he heard soft footsteps approaching. He turned, and something in the world went quiet. She stood there, framed by lantern light, her long dark hair falling straight like silk, her shy eyes searching for him before they nervously looked away. She whispered a greeting, barely audible, but to him it sounded like a warm breeze breaking through winter. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. They simply took in the moment. Two souls who had always orbited one another but rarely stood close like this. Finally, he smiled first. A gentle, real smile. And she felt her heart thump so loudly that she hoped he couldn't hear. He stepped forward, holding out the water balloon he had just won. He didn't say it, but the gesture meant more than any gift from the festival stands. It meant I want to share this night with you. She accepted it with trembling fingers, thanking him softly, her cheeks blooming with a rosy warmth. Then she raised her own fan, offering it as though it might help her speak the feelings caught in her throat. They walked side by side, neither too close nor too far, just enough to feel the presence of the other. They spoke about small things first. The decorations, the smells of sweet festival treats, the laughter echoing through the streets. Slowly, their voices found comfort. Slowly, their smiles grew wider. Time slipped by unnoticed. They passed a booth selling shimmering masks. He tried on one shaped like a fox, making her giggle. He laughed simply because she did. She tried on a butterfly mask, glowing purple under the lanterns, and suddenly he couldn't look away. For once, he saw her not as the quiet girl who stood far behind, but as someone radiant. Every moment allowed her confidence to grow. Every laugh he shared with her washed away a small piece of her fear. She had always admired him from afar, but now, she walked beside him. And that alone felt like a dream she didn't want to wake up from. After a while, they reached the wishing lantern stand. People wrote hopes onto slips of paper before tying them beneath the big tree where lanterns hung like stars. He picked up a paper, hesitated, then smiled awkwardly and began writing. His letters were bold and uneven. He finished quickly and folded it up, keeping it hidden. She took her time, her handwriting soft and careful. She thought deeply about everything she wanted and everything she feared losing. When she finished, she pressed the paper to her heart before tying it beside his. Neither asked what the other had wished for. But he secretly hoped the night would never end. And she wished for courage, courage to protect this fragile happiness blooming inside her. As they walked again, the ground beneath their feet glowed with the lantern reflections. He glanced at her hand, so close to his, and wondered if he should reach out. His heartbeat thundered, nerves rising like waves. She felt his gaze and shyly tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She wished he would take her hand. But fear held her fingers still. They reached a quiet bridge overlooking the small river that curved around the village. Fireflies hovered above the water, flickering gently like tiny lanterns seeking their own dreams. They stood there, silent but comfortable. The air was warm. The breeze carried voices from distant streets. The night's peace wrapped around them gently. His voice broke the silence. He told her she looked beautiful in her yukata. She turned quickly, stunned, face burning pink, but she did not look away this time. Instead, she whispered a thank you, her voice steadier than she expected. Then she told him something she had been holding onto for years, that he had always inspired her. Not because he was strong, or loud, or brave, but because he never gave up on himself. He never let loneliness win. She admired him not as a hero, but as a boy with a heart bigger than the sky. The honesty of her words struck him deeper than any praise he had ever heard. He stared at her, feeling a warmth spread in his chest, gentle, unfamiliar, and overwhelming. For the first time, he realized he wasn't alone anymore. He whispered her name, soft as starlight. And she responded with a smile that felt like dawn. Far above them, fireworks began to explode, flowers of light blooming in the night sky. Their reflections shimmered on the river's surface. He looked up. She watched the sky too, eyes shining like another firework had lit inside them. Neither noticed that their hands had finally brushed. Just a brush, but enough to send electricity through both hearts. The fireworks faded for a moment, leaving trails of light dissolving into the blue darkness above them. In that brief pause of silence, their hands remained so close, warmth brushing warmth, though neither dared to fully close the distance yet. Their hearts seemed to speak louder than any words could manage. He found himself watching the way the lantern glow reflected softly in her eyes, like she held the night sky inside them. She, meanwhile, tried not to let her breath catch whenever he looked at her with that bright, sincere smile she had adored from afar for so long. The festival noises behind them grew faint, as if the world politely stepped aside to give them this moment. But then, laughter spilled down the path as a group of children ran past them, playfully bumping into him. He stumbled, and without thinking, he caught her hand, firmly, instinctively. She gasped in surprise, her eyes wide, face warming instantly. His fingers were strong but gentle, as if he feared he might break something precious. He quickly realized what he'd done. His face flushed, and he awkwardly tried to let go, but she surprised him by holding on a little longer. Her grip wasn't bold. It was shy, trembling, but it was enough to tell him not to pull away just yet. They walked again. This time hands joined, neither speaking about it. Neither needed to. Their hearts finally understood something their voices still struggled to admit. At another booth, they found paper wind charms decorated with tiny wishes. She stopped to admire them, her eyes catching on a charm painted in soft lilac hues. He noticed immediately, the way her gaze lingered a heartbeat longer on that particular one. Without hesitation, he bought it. When he gave it to her, she looked so surprised that words failed her completely. It wasn't just a charm. It was a memory captured in something she could hold. They moved toward a small stall selling sweet snacks on sticks. He tried to take a bite too big and ended up with sticky sugar on the side of his lips. She giggled softly behind her hand. He laughed too, and then she, gathering courage from somewhere deep inside, reached up and wiped the sugar from his cheek. Her fingers brushed his skin for the briefest moment, and he froze, awed, flustered, incredibly happy. He thanked her with a voice that stumbled over itself. She smiled, proud she had done something brave. As they wandered, the sounds of drums and laughter floated from another part of the festival grounds. They followed the music and discovered people dancing in a circle, steps traditional and full of joy. He nudged her playfully, asking if she wanted to join. Her heart raced at the idea, but she nodded, whispering that she would try, because he asked. He took her hand again. This time, the touch came easily. Their steps were clumsy at first. He almost tripped. She giggled again, covering her mouth with the fan in her other hand. But slowly, they found a rhythm. They danced, not gracefully, but joyfully, like the world was finally giving them permission to stop hiding. She told him she had never danced at a festival before. He admitted he never had anyone to dance with before. The admission made her chest tighten with emotion she could no longer pretend was just admiration. She dared to look at him longer now, letting her eyes speak the tenderness she had hidden for so long. After the dancing ended, they walked toward a quieter path lined with glowing sakura-shaped lanterns. The crowd thinned. The voices dimmed. The night became intimate again. He took a slow breath as if gathering strength. She sensed something important was coming and her pulse quickened. He stopped walking and faced her fully. He began to speak. Softly at first. He told her that he had always noticed her presence, even when he pretended he hadn't. He told her he remembered every time she had cheered for him quietly, every time she believed in him when no one else did. He told her that tonight, he felt like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. She looked up at him, eyes wide, shimmering. Her voice shook as she confessed that she had admired him longer than he could imagine. That she always wished she could be near him like this, but she was too scared he'd never see her the way she saw him. The moment stretched between them like a delicate thread, one that could either break or pull them even closer. Fireworks burst above them again. Bright, beautiful, almost perfectly timed. The colors washed over their faces, painting their expressions in gold and ruby light. He reached up and brushed a stray hair behind her ear, carefully, reverently. Her breath caught. The world held still. He told her he wanted this night, with her, to never end. Her heart overflowed. She whispered that even if the night passed, she hoped their connection wouldn't fade with the dawn. His fingers gently intertwined with hers, properly this time, intentionally. That single gesture sealed a promise neither had spoken plainly yet. Tonight was not an ending. It was the beginning of something that neither of them would ever forget. They stood beneath the fireworks, closer than they had ever been. Hands held tight, smiles soft, hearts open. For the first time, they no longer felt like two separate worlds. They felt like one story. The fireworks above them melted into soft glimmers, leaving behind a calm that settled gently over the night. They still stood on the quiet path where lanterns glowed like fallen stars around their feet. His hand remained wrapped around hers, slightly nervous, slightly unsure, but full of a warmth that kept growing deeper. He looked at her with a softness he didn't know he was capable of. Each time he looked into her eyes, he felt like a new world was unfolding, one where he wasn't just a boy wandering through life alone. One where someone truly saw him. She, too, felt the shift inside her. A delicate flutter in her chest. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Just hours ago, she would have hidden behind the comfort of silent distance. But now, she was here, close enough to hear his uneven breaths. Close enough to feel her courage slowly rewriting her fears. They continued walking, this time slower. Neither wanted to reach any destination too fast, afraid the journey might end. They wandered into a quieter garden area of the festival grounds, where fewer lanterns hung and the sky seemed bigger, full of untouched stars. He gently loosened his hold on her hand but didn't let go. Instead, his thumb brushed lightly against the back of her fingers, a small, instinctive gesture that made her breath catch. Her heartbeat stuttered, and she wondered if he could feel it traveling through her skin. She whispered his name, not because she had anything to say, but because she wanted to hear how his name sounded wrapped in her feelings. He turned instantly, attentive, like every sound she made mattered. He asked her if she was cold, noticing the slight shiver in her shoulders. She shook her head and smiled shyly, because it wasn't the night wind that made her tremble. He looked away for a moment, as though trying to gather the courage to speak what rested heavy in his chest. She watched him, worried he might drift back into that quiet place where emotions get locked away. Then he took a soft breath and said he had always wondered something about her. Her eyebrows lifted, curiosity winning over fear. He told her that she always seemed to stand just far enough away, like she was scared she wasn't allowed to stand beside him. She froze for a moment. Those words struck into the very core of her heart. He had seen right through her. She admitted, in a trembling voice, that she had been afraid of disappointing him, of not being someone special enough. He blinked. Confusion, disbelief, then a sudden ache crossing his eyes. To him, she had always been one of the brightest lights in his world. He had just been too blind to see it sooner. He stepped a little closer, just enough for her to feel the warmth radiating from him, and told her she was already special. Not because she tried to be, but because she simply was. Her eyes softened, filling with emotions she had hidden for too long. Nobody had ever said such things to her before. She didn't know whether to smile or cry, so a little of both escaped her. He lifted his hand slowly, giving her every chance to step back, but she didn't. Instead, she leaned closer, drawn to the kindness in his eyes. His fingers brushed her cheek, wiping away the faint tear that had dared to fall. That touch, gentle, careful, told her more than any confession ever could. He whispered that he liked seeing her smile, and that he wanted to be the reason she never lost it. Her heart fluttered wildly. A wave of warmth swept through her, stronger than any firework that had burst before them. With a courage she didn't know she had, she reached up and placed her hand over his, holding it against her cheek. Her eyes closed for a moment, savoring the comfort, the closeness, the soft electricity that danced along her skin. He didn't move. He was afraid that even the slightest shift would break the magic weaving itself between them. He simply watched her, memorizing the sight, the gentle trust in her expression, the softness of her breath. When she opened her eyes again, their faces were so close that just speaking would bring their lips nearer. She whispered that she had never been this happy before, and he felt something inside him fall completely, helplessly into her. He exhaled, voice shaking as he told her that he wished this night could last forever, because for the first time, he didn't feel alone. She smiled with a tenderness that wrapped around him like a warm embrace. Then slowly, without hurry, she leaned her head onto his shoulder. He froze, stunned, then melted into the moment, letting his cheek rest lightly against her hair. His heart beat fast, but steady, because she was right where she belonged. They stood under the stars, holding on to each other, letting silence speak for their hearts. No rush, no fear, just the sweet, quiet truth blooming between them. They had found home, in each other. Their hearts were beautifully tangled in that quiet moment, her head resting gently on his shoulder, his fingers still holding hers like a promise he didn't know how to put into words. For the first time, both felt truly seen, truly chosen. But the world outside their little bubble had not disappeared. From behind them, footsteps approached, confident and familiar only to her. A voice called her name. Soft at first, then louder when she didn't respond. She slowly lifted her head, her breathing uneven as she turned to see who it was. A boy stood a few steps away, dressed in a stylish dark blue yukata, posture relaxed but eyes sharp, as if emotionally trained to hide jealousy behind a casual smile. He had known her for years, a childhood friend who had always believed he would be the one standing with her tonight. He glanced at their clasped hands. He didn't smile after that. He asked if she had been looking for him earlier, reminding her that they had plans to walk through the festival together tonight. His tone wasn't angry, but there was a strain there, a quiet warning buried beneath the smooth surface. She replied with honesty, saying she wasn't expecting to meet anyone except the boy who now stood protectively beside her. But her voice trembled, not out of guilt, but fear of hurting someone who once mattered. The new boy, no, the old friend, suddenly felt like a storm in a place where only stars should exist. He stepped a little closer, ignoring the tension. He looked directly at the boy she now stood beside. His words were polite. His eyes were not. He asked if they were enjoying the festival together. The word, together, slipped out like a blade wrapped in silk. The boy's grip on her hand tightened unconsciously, not in fear, but in quiet protectiveness. This night had taken long to build, and he wasn't ready to lose it to someone who arrived late to the story. He kept his voice calm when he answered, saying that yes, they were together, and the night had been perfect so far. His confidence surprised even himself, but the warmth in his chest, the warmth she gave him, pushed words out without hesitation. The childhood friend laughed softly, brushing a hand through his hair as if he were trying to shake away his frustration. He asked if she wanted to return to the other side of the festival, the plan they had made earlier. She hesitated. Only for a moment. In that hesitation, the old friend read his answer. He was no longer the one she chose first. Jealousy shifted into his gaze. Raw, unfiltered, but he tried to bury it under a smirk. He told her she should enjoy the festival with whoever she wanted, but the tone clearly said he wasn't fine at all. She gently shook her head and said she wanted to stay right here, where she felt happy, comfortable, and safe. The boy beside her felt her words like a soft wind lighting every lantern in his heart. But the friend wasn't ready to step back. Not yet. He leaned slightly closer to her and whispered something only she could hear, a reminder of promises they made when they were younger. Promises of always staying together. Promises he thought were unbreakable. Her eyes widened. Not because she wanted to return to those promises, but because she realized they no longer belonged to her heart. And he saw that realization too. His expression finally cracked, hurt replacing confidence. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes, bowed stiffly, and stepped away with a sharp breath he tried to hide. Before leaving, he turned his head just enough to give the boy one last look, a silent challenge. Don't break her. Dash dash dash. Silence returned as his figure disappeared into the festival crowd. She stared down at her hand still held in his, and squeezed it tighter than before. He didn't ask what the friend whispered. He simply said one sentence. Greater than, You don't have to go anywhere. I'm right here. Only if you want me to be. Her eyes softened. A mix of relief and affection that felt warm enough to mend any crack that moment had created. She stepped closer. Close enough that their shoulders touched again, and whispered. Greater than, I choose to stay. The jealousy had done something unexpected. It didn't pull them apart. It pulled them closer. Now, the night's air shimmered with something even stronger. Not just affection. Not just excitement. But the certainty that they belonged to each other, even if the world wanted otherwise. After the childhood friend disappeared into the dim festival lights, the silence between them grew softer, like a blanket placed carefully around their hearts. No tension. No fear. Just the warm understanding that they had chosen each other. She looked up at him slowly, as though searching for something in his eyes. Reassurance, gratitude, perhaps even the promise that she wasn't mistaken in trusting her heart tonight. His expression remained gentle, carefully watching hers with concern he didn't try to hide. He asked if she was okay. She nodded, but her eyes told a different story, a small storm of old memories and new courage struggling inside her. He did not push her to speak. Instead, he stepped closer, one slow step at a time. And then, with a hesitation full of tenderness, he lifted his arms, giving her the choice. A silent question. Can I hold you? She didn't think. She didn't overanalyze. She simply moved. Her body leaned forward, and she wrapped her arms around him, gently at first, then tighter, as if she feared he might fade away like a dream if she didn't hold on strong enough. His breath caught in surprise, because the moment he had only dared to imagine, was suddenly real. His arms closed around her instantly, almost protectively, his hands resting on her back with a delicate strength. Her cheek pressed against his chest, and she could finally feel the wild rhythm of his heartbeat. Loud, nervous, alive. It matched hers. Two hearts, racing in harmony, discovering what closeness truly meant. He lowered his head slightly, eyes closing as he inhaled the faint scent of her hair, a mix of soft flowers and festival air. It made his heart ache in the most beautiful way. No words needed. Their bodies spoke everything. Don't let go. I'm here. I want this. She whispered, voice muffled against him, that she had been scared for so long. Scared of losing someone before she could even reach them. He rested his cheek lightly on her hair and told her she didn't have to be scared tonight, or any night he was beside her. Her fingers curled into the fabric of his yukata, holding him just a little tighter, a silent plea for him to stay close. His hands slid slowly down her arms and paused at her waist, not daring to go any farther than what felt respectful and right. They stayed like that, not moving, not thinking about how long it lasted. Just holding each other. Just breathing together. Just being two people whose hearts had finally found the courage to meet. When she slowly pulled back, she didn't step away fully. She stayed close, her forehead nearly touching his chest as her gaze lifted to meet his eyes. There was a softness there. A sweetness. A tiny spark of something dangerously close to love. He raised his hand again, the same gentle touch as before, and lightly brushed the side of her face with his fingers. She leaned into his touch without fear. Their eyes spoke everything their lips were still shy to say. You matter. You make me brave. I want to stay beside you. And then he whispered. Greater than, I'm glad you're here with me. She smiled. Small, shy, but overflowing with a blooming happiness she could no longer hide. Their hands remained close even after the embrace ended, not touching, but close enough that both of them could feel the warmth hovering between their fingers. She wondered if he noticed. He absolutely did. He cleared his throat gently, not because he was uncomfortable, but because his heart was still racing faster than he ever imagined it could. She looked so steady, yet inside she was falling apart in the sweetest way. He asked her if she wanted to walk around the festival again, slowly this time, with no rush, just the two of them. She nodded, unable to hide the tiny spark of happiness in her eyes. They walked side by side. At first, they kept a careful distance. But every few seconds, their hands brushed accidentally, or maybe not accidentally at all. Every small touch felt like lightning under their skin. To distract themselves from the growing tension, they began talking, real talking. Not about school, not about friends, not about anything that didn't matter. They spoke about fears, dreams, the nights they felt lonely, the mornings they pretended everything was fine. They talked about how they always saw each other from a distance, wishing they could come closer. He admitted that he always noticed how her smile disappeared when she thought no one was watching. She admitted she always saw how his eyes dimmed whenever he tried too hard to appear strong. Their secrets were gentle tonight. Their vulnerability was beautiful. And the more they shared, the more their shoulders brushed, softly, like a silent promise. I see you. I like you. Don't hide anymore. Suddenly, a vendor shouted an offer, a small romantic festival game. He looked at her. She looked at him. A shy laugh escaped both of them. He tried the game first, slightly nervous but determined to impress her. His first throw missed. He frowned. Second throw. Missed again. She giggled quietly. He looked at her dramatically offended. Which only made her laugh harder. He tried again, eyes focused this time, and finally, he won. The prize. A small cute charm shaped like a tiny star. He didn't hesitate. He placed it gently into her hands. It matches you, he said softly. Her heartbeat fluttered wildly. She held the charm like it was the most precious thing in the world. And then, their hands touched fully. Not by accident. Her fingers slid between his. And this time he held on. Their hands fit perfectly, like they'd been waiting for this moment for years. Silence returned. But it was a beautiful silence, glowing with meaning. They walked like that, fingers intertwined, their hearts learning what closeness felt like. After a while, he stopped walking. She looked up in surprise. Firelight danced in his eyes. He asked her quietly, greater than, do you really feel safe with me? Her answer didn't come from her lips first. It came from the way she squeezed his hand tighter. Yes, she whispered. More than anyone. His breath shook. Because that answer changed everything. The fireworks above them burst again. Bright, colorful, loud, but they didn't look away from each other this time. Their faces were so close. So dangerously close. He leaned in, slow, giving her time to step back if she wanted. She didn't. Her eyes fluttered shut for just half a second. And that was all the courage he needed. But just before their lips could meet, someone called her name from far away. They froze. Reality snapped back sharply. Their hearts were trembling. Not from fear, but from the kiss that almost happened, the kiss that both of them now desperately wanted. She looked down, cheeks burning. He exhaled shakily, trying to steady himself. Even without touching their lips, the moment electrified them. Because now they both knew. They wanted each other. Not maybe. Not someday. Tonight. Their fingers remained intertwined, refusing to let go. And in that simple, stubborn touch, their nearly kissed hearts made a quiet promise. The fireworks began again in the distance, but neither of them looked up. Because suddenly, the sky wasn't